Today's episode is brought to you by Twitch Prime. Did you know that Twitch Prime allows you to sub to your favorite streamer once? Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, the Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. Big episode this week. We're officially going to be 2 years old on Friday. So by the time you hear the next episode after this one, it will be a birthday for us here. So 2 full years of putting out episodes.
Yep.
Feels like, a couple months, I think, right? Like roughly around there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It really is crazy to think that it's been 2 years.
And in the pre-show, I was talking about how, I think even before the pre-show, like when we were just getting on the call, in so many ways, to me, this feels like literally episode 1.
Yeah.
It feels like the kickoff of like just nonstop Overwatch League talk and shenanigans. It feels like now it's a sports show instead of an esports show. In so many ways, just the format of the league, everything like that. I'm really, really excited, and just excited about the topic today. It's like the first thing I look at to start my football preparation at the beginning of every season. Very, very excited.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, like, we were talking about this in the pre-show too. It's like
audio.
What?
You were crackly and just awful.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the beauty of
you're good.
Everything is that we can just keep going. We're talking about this in the pre-show where we're like every moment of like literally every single moment of every day with like the Discord and Twitter and like everything going on. It's like we're so pumped up about Overwatch and so excited about Overwatch that like it's just so exciting. It's like the literal opposite of how we felt about Hearthstone after like a quarter of the time covering it. Like it's just like it seems like every day we're getting a breath of fresh air with Overwatch, and it's just awesome. So a lot of really exciting things on the horizon that we can't talk about yet. And a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about that's also very exciting. So let's move right into it because we do have a lot to talk about. And talk about what did we do last week, Death? Anything fun and exciting?
So, I mentioned last week that the team I was on split up and kind of all went our own ways. I've been fielding some tryouts. I had a coaching tryout I was really, really hopeful about, a team that was towards the middle to the top of the open division standings. I was really hoping to work with. They did decide to go a different direction, so I'm still fielding tryouts at the moment. I did try out for a couple of teams, really good guys, but honestly, it's got to be like a perfect fit, right? Like this is kind of my moment where I want to go coaching or content with like 100% of my effort and just go crazy with it. And so the teams I've played with so far have just kind of, for whatever reason, just been a little bit off. Nothing even with the guys. I don't know that there's a team I could try out for that I'd take at the moment. Like it would have to be
Grouchy Desperados.
GM. Yeah, it would have to be like up there. Like I'd have to be playing up again. I don't know, just kind of been a goofy week, and I'm trying to get into the rhythm and the swing of things without having scrims every single day, and like trying to go from coaching to like finding 5 minutes to cram some food in my face before scrim start, and so it's just been like oddly relaxing for the past week.
Yeah, and you might even have a chance to carry some scrubs later today, in some placement matches and some noobs. But for me, I got the ability to guest host on the Overwatch League Network show, hosted by Totemly Drunk and Slambo and Spider. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with them, but if you're not, go on iTunes, check out Overwatch League Network. I was on the last episode and we had a lot of fun. Really long episode, just a ton to talk about. It was like their post BlizzCon show. So just a ton of stuff to talk about. And yeah, and well, speaking of tons of stuff to talk about, we also have a ton of stuff to talk about. So we will move right along into my favorite segment of the show. Although I might actually be replacing that with this new segment I've brewed up. But for now,
Overwatch Today meme of the week.
Of course, it is the Overwatch Today meme of the week. And this one, this was just funny. It's just a dumb meme. I love it. It's a picture of a dog, and it like looks like someone blew a bubble and they took the picture so that it looks like the dog is in the bubble, and the caption is just "Bears on you, go." It's like. It's got dogs. It's got Zarya. It's just everything I need in a meme. Except
it's even got the color green, so you could zoom in on it and say, "I need to." If you wanted to.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with it's got the color green, therefore
green wall.
Exactly.
I got you.
Yeah, he knew it. But yeah, so obviously always a good meme viewing on with Overwatch Today, but let's move.
Game Watch Today, actually.
Yes,
if
now.
Looking for him now, it's Game Watch.
Yes, if you're looking for him now because stupid Instagram and their stupid rules and stuff made him change to Game Watch Today, but still the Overwatch Today spirit. But let's move right along to
It's tournament talk.
We do have one tournament to talk about today, and real quick, we'll talk about kind of the background of this event.
The tournament that was never supposed to happen.
Yeah, that we really wish never would happen. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, maybe not as closely tied to the competitive scene and otherwise, former Envious player and former Team Liquid coach, Internet Hulk, tragically passed away a few days ago. Really kind of, we don't have a lot of the details on it, but I don't think it wasn't really anything anyone expected. Super sad, and our condolences go out to his friends and family. Really hate to have to talk about something like this and to have it happen, but it did, in an awful experience like that, the community really kind of banded together, and really showed what we can do as a community, to embrace and show kindness and caring and love, in the community, a community that is known, for its toxicity and trolling, really kind of banded together for the greater good, and it was a really great thing that came out of such an awful tragedy. But we did. There was a tournament, the Hulktastic Cup, that was run in Internet Hulk's honor and memory. And it was a community event. It was played on the PTR, which was kind of cool. Yeah. First time we got to see Moira in any sort of competitive capacity. And this wasn't it wasn't a super fancy esports event with a bunch of teams that were tryharding. It was really, a lot of the teams were either old relics of old teams that we've seen in the past. It was done, I believe it was actually casted on the Gosu Gamers cast, and I caught a little bit of it, and the spam was in order like the old days, and it was something like 16K viewers, shaky camera, ZP production, just like Gosu Gamers monthly melee or Gosu Gamers weeklies. So it did have a feel of the old days. I know we saw a lot of old teams that we haven't seen in a while.
Old teams, they were running old compositions,
old team names.
They were running, Internet Hulk's favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
They were, this was, for an event that had a lot of very serious esports players in it,
Mm-hmm.
nobody came in and, took it too seriously or you know what I mean? Like, this was meant to be a way for the community to grieve and to do some good with that grief. And they were accepting donations through Matcherino, through a GoFundMe page, all to go to Internet Hulk's family to help pay for the expenses that come with this sort of thing. And it's, they were just having a lot of fun with it. And Hexagram said it best. It's the way Internet Hulk would have wanted it. Like, we're not all sitting around being sad. Like, we're celebrating his life by hosting a tournament in a game that he loved and a game that he helped. It was really kind of a founding member of. I mean, you look at the powerhouse that is Envious and what they've been throughout their time in competitive Overwatch. And Internet Hulk built them. Built that team. He created it and moved into coaching. He was about to cross over into another game. He was just a very big personality, a very impactful person. So it was great to hear all the stories. He's not somebody that unfortunately we ever got the chance to meet or have on the hot seat or anything like that. Always on the list of people we desperately did want to speak with. And unfortunately, for everybody, it's just nothing that can happen anymore. But from our end, a huge thank you to anybody who participated, donated, had anything to do with that event. It was something else to watch. The tribute video at the end was really, really hard to watch, to be perfectly honest, in the best way possible. So just a really a great tournament, and props to everybody involved. You guys did a lot of good. You exceeded all of your donation goals, and I think they're still open. So if anybody does want to donate, I don't have the links handy, but if you reach out to us and tell us if you want to donate, we'll make sure we find them or find out what you can do, to help show your support. Yeah, and
one thing before we go into the results of the event, Blizzard did actually put out a global message on the PTR in remembrance of Internet Hulk and in support of the Hulktastic Cup. I don't have the link on hand of what it said, but it said I think it said #Hulktastic at the end of it. And it was just, it was just great to see the whole community, Blizzard included, really, banding together. And
a lot of onions were cut in Twitch chat.
It was sad. And yes, Thornrain did come up with the link. It is just GoFundMe.com/Hulktastic. So if you are looking to show your support towards a really good cause, GoFundMe.com/Hulktastic. So moving on, we'll try to keep the rest of the episode not as somber. So we'll try
in the spirit of the tournament. We're going to celebrate his life by getting back into the swing of things and getting excited about the game. But it would have been impossible for us to do an episode and not mention it. And we wanted to do our part to help by sharing the links. So by all means, if you want to donate, GoFundMe.com/Hulktastic.
Yep. So we had the in classic fashion, we'll go over the top 4 of this event, where we saw Watch Neptuno feed, bird noises. What was the bottom one? Internet Hulk Spanish what?
Oh man, I don't know. I already forgot.
Okay, Internet Hulk Spanish something and Arc 6 in the top 4, and then we saw Arc 6 take out Bird Noises 2-1 in the finals. Arc 6 notably has XQC on the team. Bird Noises, Arc 6 and Bird Noises were both old, vestiges of old orgs and teams that we've seen, for a long time, really.
Yeah, basically like full rosters.
Bird Noises was basically LG Evil, right?
Yeah, they were LG Evil through and through. There was another team. It was in the top 8. There was 20 Hulk. They were called in the tournament. It was like 4 or 5 Houston Outlaws, all playing off roles. Fraggy was on a team playing Mercy. These guys were having a lot of fun in this event. It was a really good time. A lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and we got
Moira play.
Yeah, we got to see Moira and the meme-tasticness of what that became. But let's move on and get to kind of the meat and potatoes of this episode. And
let's break it down.
So we're going to break it down. We do have our power rankings. Defoe's just
Getting ready.
Deathblow is just getting ready. But as he's getting ready, I wanted to. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Okay, I've been purposely not.
My mic up.
Okay. I've been purposely keeping my team, my number one team that I'm going to be rooting for in Overwatch League, at least for season 1, because once Grouchy Desperados bands together and forms the Toronto team, I'm jumping ship. But before, barring that, season 1 is going to be held by one team. And what better way to pick my team than to have the Sorting Hat do it from Harry Potter? So let's give Deathblood so ready for this. Let's just give this a whirl. You could do great things with Outlaws. Fuel. Great things with fuel. Anything but Houston. No, I don't want to be in Texas. But they're such a good team. And the branding. So elegant. No. Anything but Texas. Anything but Texas. Excelsior! Dumbest bit ever. Definitely worth the wait, though. Yes, my team, in fact, and we even have the drop for it.
Excelsior!
We're in. We're in on it, boys. New York Excelsior. I am officially, if I had a jersey, I'd be donning it right now, but I don't. Officially New York Excelsior fan. I'm just gonna say I'm fan number 1. So I'm just putting it out there.
Like the first one that decided to root for that, because I don't think that's accurate.
Well, call the police and have them tell me that it's not true, or GTFO. Yes, Stone Rain brings up a good point that I'm the only one on the High Noon Podcast server, which is the home High Noon Podcast Discord server, which is the home of the best Overwatch League discussion, the most candid and best internet Overwatch League discussion.
Yeah, and listen, our Discord server, we did a good job apparently hyping it up and selling it to you guys last week, because holy cow, so many people joined. It was absolutely crazy
and awesome.
And we want to hear from everybody. We're getting fans of teams that haven't been represented in the server before coming in.
Yep.
And I've just got to say, though, be ready. You got to have your team, right? Like, if there's anybody out there not sure yet, you might want to wait, because you're going to get put on blast right away. People want to know, like, and your welcome message, people are, like, commenting with, or putting reactions on it with all the team logos. And they're like, who are you rooting for?
Yep.
Oh, hi. Oh, hello, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah. Also, just for reference, the High Noon Podcast Discord has all of the team logos as emotes. So if you're looking for a place to get them all, check out the Discord server. Not to mention, it's just awesome. It's just a great place to be. That like okay, so, and I really didn't want to go on a whole tangent about how great the Discord is, but you know what? I'm proud of what our Discord has become, because it could have gone a lot of ways. It could have gone the Ghost Town route. Absolutely could have been, and it was for a little bit. You know, I think we had good discussions when people were talking, but it was when we had it closed to just patrons, it was quiet. Or like a lot of other Discord servers have gone, they just turn into spam and meme fests, and it just doesn't happen here. We self-police enough. Like, we haven't had to ban anyone or anything.
Like, completely self-police themselves. Like, we don't have like a rules page. You know how you join a Discord server and you're like hit with a wall of text of rules and things you can and can't do. Like, everything's really just self-policing. Like you join up, have a good time, talk
some smack. Yep.
And, be ready to take it and dish it out, because I know everybody's really very nice and respectful, except for to me, and I give it back in kind.
Right. Unless you're from EU, in which case
when you're dishing out the smack talk, it gets rough coming back. But yeah, so join that, and very soon we're gonna have like just an official. It'll be like discord.gg/ that should be coming soon. So we'll hopefully be able to make it a little easier for you guys to find us. But for now, you can go to the website highnoonpodcast.com. Right there on the main page, there's a link to the Discord server.
Yes. I don't even remember where we're going with this, but great. It's great is the long and short of it. But this is what we've been waiting for, Death. It's power rankings day number 1. You've been waiting for this basically since before the announcement of the league. It's like, we need power rankings we just need something that's just succinct and long enough for us to actually have a meaningful discussion about power rankings. And Overwatch League.
Yeah, so we've been super, super excited for this topic in particular, as well as the league as a whole, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody, though, power rankings might be kind of a weird concept to you. So now what we've done here for our power rankings today that we're going to be talking about is we have reached out to just about everybody in the community we could think of.
A lot of people.
And we asked them to submit their power rankings to us to be combined into one big group where everybody's rankings get averaged out. And we can have, bias aside, like you can remove all that. Any one person can't skew the rankings and make them look weird. So this is a consensus rankings that we're going to be giving you today. And the list of people that contributed, and huge shout outs to A. Smith for reaching out to them, coordinating all this and pulling this off, is obviously mine and yours, Blevins, are in there, as well as Achilleos, Alicus, Ask Joshi, Bren, Captain Planet, Chanman, Doa, Harsha, Hexagrams, I Play Games, Kicked Tripod, Left Guy, Mash, Not Rob, Pesto Enthusiast, Sideshow, Slambo, Spider, Taco, Totemly Drunk, Uber, that's Uber Shouts, and then Wolf, the caster as well. So all of those people submitted us power rankings, and we're going to be giving you guys the average of them. Now we're also going to probably be writing these up and including specifics for people that don't mind them being public and forward facing for a variety of reasons. Some people didn't want them to be out there yet, whether they're going to be releasing them later on their own or what have you, but so we're going to be releasing them. We're not 100% sure on the format. It might have them all out there, but and I think we're probably going to go that way. But we'll also be writing this up and putting this up on the website so that we can get it on Reddit and really share it with the community, because we think it's a really, really interesting thing to look at here. So, Blevins, do you want to kind of explain what power rankings are to us, at least when we were making our list here?
Yeah, so it's really kind of a snapshot of where we think the teams rank up at this moment right now. Obviously, all we have to base it on is past experiences, how we're feeling, how the teams look, etc. It's not this is how we think in July, this is how we think the teams are going to stack up, because that would be really stupid to do, and it would be almost useless. We definitely could do that. But, this is, at week 0 of the preseason, or like week -2 or whatever of the preseason, this is where, we personally are putting the teams, and we also have the consensus for the teams. We have the consensus from the community of where these teams kind of stack up initially. Now, like I said, these are not this is what we say is going to be the finals of the 2020 game. That's like, okay, no, take it for what it's worth. It's this week, and it's right now. We're not even going to see any preseason games for another few weeks. So, call us out for what you will. There's definitely some. I know I have a couple of wacky oddball ones.
Mr. Outlier over here. Yep.
I have a couple outliers, but that's fine. These are the types of things that are going to change week to week, literally going to change week to week. And it's not, it's not jumping on the bandwagon. It's not losing faith in a team. It's like, we're going to watch a lot of Overwatch. We're going to see the teams play, and we're going to make our best judgments based on how they're playing and, how we feel about how they're doing. And that's really, in essence, what the power rankings are. It's not that's what they are. Anything else to add to that?
I was going to say, just to put a bow on that, basically the best way I can think of to describe it is, if I had the 13th team in the league and I was basically picking the order in which I don't want to play against these guys, in that first week, like who would I be the most afraid of versus the 12th most afraid of? That's what I've done here. So this is about what I think their chances are week one to get that win, how they are at the moment, like you said. We'll also, we might in the future try to project final standings. That's essentially what the power rankings contest is in the Discord. So if you do join in there, make sure you check out that text channel. You can basically try to guess at the final standings for the end of season 1 and submit those. It'll look similar to these power rankings, but it's a little bit different task. So when you hear our rankings, we're not saying, when we have this team at number 1, we're not saying I'm predicting them to win the championship. We're saying I'm afraid of playing them the most in week 1.
I'm not only saying I'm predicting them to win the championship. I'm saying they're going to win the next 5.
All right. All 5 championships. Bold statement. Let me see who you got at number 1. All right. Yeah. All right.
Wait. Let me. Hold on. Who do I have at number 1?
Oh, I know. Calm down.
It's because I was playing the drop.
I was going to say, I think you're playing something, so I'll wait. One more thing to add here is we did not give that definition to any of the people we asked to contribute. Power rankings might mean something different to other people, and that's part of the reason why we're combining them, grouping them up. So take it for what it's worth.
Right.
It's just meant to be a fun talking point and a fun frame of reference. With that said, if you disagree about any one of my rankings, I will fight you. So
yeah, I'll fight everyone on everything.
Let's get into them. Yeah, I don't feel super confident in most of the rankings, but I will fight to the death to defend them.
Yeah,
let's get into it.
Oh, do you want me to start this, or do you want?
Yeah, you can get it started. I don't care either way. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let's just we'll go 12-1 backwards, and we'll just each go over each of our spots.
Well, I was going to say, why don't we give the team in each spot and then do, what their highest pick was, what their lowest pick was, and then we talk about why we put them there. Sound right?
Yeah, I think.
All right. So what's number 12?
Number 12 is the Boston Uprising.
Huge surprise to not too many people, but
yeah.
Boston comes in at the end with the highest possible rating that anybody gave them was an 8. And the lowest was 12. Spoiler, it was most of them. But now part of this as well is one thing we're going to be giving you here is after the day after they announced the schedules, I went through and figured out who everybody plays 4 times outside of their division. The way things are set up, they play 2 people out of the division 4 times, the rest of the other division only 3 times. So for the Boston Uprising, that means they will be playing against the Dallas Fuel and the Los Angeles Valiant twice. So they have extra games against those 2 opponents. Dallas Fuel especially, I think it has to contribute to it, right? Not much, right? But it just has to mean a little bit here, saying, if any doom and gloom strategies here, an extra game, that's not the team I would pick to have an extra game against.
Yeah, I would not want to have the extra game against Dallas. And I just want to put this out here just for a frame of reference. We've said 1 power ranking stat, and already chat is going crazy over it. Oh, I'm so happy right now.
Excellent. Yeah, they're worst rankings ever confirmed. The entire rest of the show is invalidated. We might not even do another episode. We might just shut it down.
No, it's not even that. It's just people are just going crazy over everything. I love it.
So, yeah, basically the gist of things here, as far as myself goes, yes, I hate them, but also the roster just lacks some firepower. We've talked about this one. I don't think this one's a big surprise. They need to prove that they have it to compete, I think, with this roster before I'm going to move them from here on. Any chance, what do you need to see to move them up?
I want to see them be able to win. I need to be able to see them do well against the lower tier teams, the bottom half of the standings, basically. Right now, everyone has them pegged at dead last. I mean, I put them at last, but I could see them being a mid-tier team, honestly. It's just going to, like, they're in the group of teams that are the experiment, where it's like, okay, we're not just going to take a full team. We're going to do, Junkenstein's monster team, essentially, where we're going to be, you see how I referenced the Halloween event? Okay. We're going to see, we're going to pick and choose, and we're going to take that strategy, which I want to see how these things turn out. So they need to be able to beat the lower tier team, the other, maybe the other Junkenstein's type teams. And I also would like to see them. I mean, how much stock do I put in one star player? Not a lot, but I would like to see them pick up, like if they pick up Mangachu mid-season, like all of a sudden I think people start looking at them differently. That's the type that like maybe not Mangachu specifically based on their roster, which I don't have off the top of my head, but like that type of signing is what will get people excited and what will get me excited to be like, okay, well now they have a direction of where they're going and building around.
Week 1 opponents for the Boston Uprising are the New York Excelsior and the Florida Mayhem. So
it's just 2 easy losses for them.
Two very solid opponents. They can start surprising us very early. Moving along here at number 11. This one surprised me. I'm not even going to lie to you. This one surprised me. I wanted to see him a little higher. I had him a little higher. We have the Los Angeles Gladiators. Their 2 out of division opponents that they face 4 times are Houston and Florida. Greenville! So 1 extra loss right there for the LA Gladiators, I guess, completely justifies all of this, 11th place business.
Yeah, I mean, the
the ranges here, I apologize.
Yeah.
They've been as low as 12 and as high as 7 so far.
Yeah, and what did you put them at, Death?
I personally had them at 9. You had them at 10.
Yeah. So I mean, we're giving a little more than I guess the community is. But let me just look at the roster real quick. It's like, they've got Surefour, Bishu, Remix, Big Goose, Shaz. Like these are all like Surefour, I think is their, their star, quote unquote. But they have a lot of other like good players. Like, don't get me wrong, they're all quite good players. It's just like nothing is really jumping out to me in terms of excitement. And I mean, really, that's all we have to base it off of. Like, they absolutely, the Big Gooses, the Shazes, the Bishus of the world could be extremely relevant and great role players for teams. But, like, that's not what jumps out at week 000 in terms of ranking them above other teams that have star-studded names. And like this is like Gladiators as well as Boston for that matter are the types of teams that like I think they have the biggest, I mean obviously they have the biggest range to improve because they're at the bottom, but they have the biggest chance to really jump up significantly, because I'm perfectly willing to say I'm just completely wrong in terms of rating these types of teams. So I definitely, I think obviously you don't want to be at the bottom of the standings at any point really, but I think that they're not in a bad spot in terms of people underestimating them. And if they're getting underestimated and then they do really well, all of a sudden they're the story of the season or the first split. Mm-hmm. And people are talking about them and that gets some more fans, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so from my end of things here, I really like this team. This is a team that really looks like they're building something, okay? I'm just not sure that it's built yet. Mm-hmm. I look at the roster and I see 7 people, and you're going to notice with at least one other ranking here that I look not down on, but I look unfavorably on a team that has limited options in the substitution game. Because when I'm playing against a squad like this, if this team had 9 players, I feel like I would have no idea what I was going to be facing week 1. Like I would have just no clue what they were going to roll out. Like right. I could go, Surefour is going to be there. You can count on hydration if they're running Genji, but are they going to run Genji? Like, but now I'm like, okay, so iRemix and Bishu, I can go watch film on them. I've got film of me playing against iRemix if anybody wants to see. And then, I think Shaz and Big Goose are just very underrated support players. I really, really like them. Surefour is going to be great in Overwatch League. This team is going to get better over time, but they're going to take some time to gel and to build. And I just don't see a lot of options. So I think they're easier to game plan against. And I think that's going to be more important than people are giving that credit for.
Yeah.
The ability to know what they're likely to play, and then just to not have the option. Like, right, if somebody figures you out, you're done. That's it. They've got you. And I would rather have players that I could, swap out to really change things up and try to, reverse the momentum in a match.
I will get on my soapbox about that type of argument when we talk about a different team, because
that it fits a little bit.
Yeah. So let's move on. So at number 10, the community at large said the San Francisco Shock. And their two out of division extras are London and Houston. Greenwall.
The range on the Houston Shock's rankings was as low as 12 and as high as 4, Blevins.
Well, when you said that, you made it sound like I was the one that gave them 4, but that is not the case.
You did not. No. And for reference, my ranking on them was 8. And yours, Blevins, my ranking on them was 11. Yours, Blevins, was 8.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same story as I think the other. Well, I mean, it's a similar story to the Gladiators as well as the Uprising. And I think just based on this, the community kind of all feels mostly the same way, at least as a conglomerate, that it's like we're not giving, like, it's not good until proven bad, it's bad until proven good. And when you have a team that's full of individual talent, I think that's why we see them above the other two teams. But right now, the community, as well as each of us individually, are valuing established and proven success over potential, even if it's star-studded potential, which I believe, we can make the argument that San Francisco has.
Yeah, for me on this one, listen, the reason I have them at 11 instead of in that, I really like 7 through 9 was like throwing darts to me. And,
yeah, a lot of the middle was.
Yeah, it was really, really tough. And the reason these guys aren't right there in that dart throw territory for me is only because of the two guys that are going to be sitting down for a little while, right? Like, these guys will go straight up to the middle of the pack once they get their full roster back and of age and able to compete. I would be not at all worried about this if I was a San Francisco Shock fan. But nonetheless, as of right now, they've got a tough slate to face them at the beginning half here. So I really want to see, to me, the test for this team will be, stages 3 and 4, right? Like, are they competing?
Yeah.
Can they sneak into that top 3 in stages 3 and 4? Because that will just make for a huge hype train. There'll be a bandwagon. Like, there will be fans shifting in there and flooding in there if they can get themselves into one of these top 3 playoffs at the end, once they have Sinatra and they have Super. So I'm very, very excited to see them play. And even in the meantime, right, like, we'll have a more knowledge on them after those guys get back, because we'll have so much tape on their bench, right? And that I think is going to be really valuable, and it'll be really nice for San Francisco fans. But obviously, I mean, with 2 young players, it doesn't look like they have their eye on the season 1 title.
Right.
So it's really easy not to put them, to drop them to the bottom for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, it's, both of those players are very good. Don't get me wrong, but like, one of the discussions talked about before is like, where do we put those players up against Ryu Jae-hong and like the Korean teams? And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, that's just not a fair comparison because they're not playing against Ryu Jae-hong. Oh, wait a second. Yes, you literally are going to be playing against Ryu Jae-hong. And, I mean, next year, Flower and Sebaobi, like, you have to play those players too. Like, yes, these rosters are good, but, like, you're also playing against the top Korean rosters too. So, and I mean, just based on what we saw from the community, like, there is I guess, maybe a bias towards one half of the types of teams versus the other, but it'll definitely, I think Shock is another one of those teams that, I mean, it's the same story, but I think they have a little bit more potential built in already on the surface, whereas Gladiators and Boston really need, I think a lot of people would agree that they need to add something to that mix in order to really make us excited about them.
Well, moving us along here, at number 9 on the list, we have your Philadelphia Fusion, with their 2 out-of-division opponents that they faced the extra time being the Dallas Fuel and the Shanghai Dragons. Mm-hmm. The Philadelphia Fusion were as low as number 10 in people's rankings and as high as number 6 in rankings. And here's something fun. Me and you are that outlier up at number 6. So we disagree here. We think this is garbage. This is garbage. So why don't we start with you here, and why do you think they're going to finish better than 9th?
Yeah. I just, I can't. I mean, as we've explained for a very long time now, like years at this point, honestly, I am very big on the single player I'm very big on the LeBron James type of player. And you have Shadowburn.
I thought you were going to say Boombox.
No, I was not going to say Boombox. You have Shadowburn and you have Carpe, both extremely talented. I mean, Shadowburn, like, I think a lot of the other Genjis have caught up in a lot of ways, but like Shadowburn's still a top tier in the world Genji. And like he's the type of player that has the ability to put on the play of the game pants and just win a map by himself. And I think, I think a lot of people saw the light of that ability when we saw Flower just completely decimate on Hanamura in the World Cup. So I think I personally want to see that like type of like, okay, let's just go into the zone and crush type of play. Like I love that type of play. It's the LeBron James, the NBA really type of play where it's like, okay, I'm going to put my play of the game pants on and I'm going to take this over, or I'm not, and they're going to lose. Like that's fine. But I put a lot of stock in that type of play, and Shadowburn is the type of player as well. I mean, the Shadowburn Carpe combination is the type of play that I like to see. Not to mention you've got a top tier tank and Fraggy, and a lot of other good supporting cast. And I'm a little bit biased, and like I'll be the first to admit I'm always a little bit biased. I'm always going to be a little bit biased towards the somewhat local teams, and Philly is one of those 3 teams that are within 8 hours. I couldn't rate Boston any higher. I just couldn't. But
there's a difference between wanting to root for somebody and being unrealistic. So
exactly. So I think that's kind of where mine comes in. What were your thoughts, Death?
Listen, these guys have a lot that I really, really like. You mentioned they have star power. They have really strong supports. I was only half kidding when I mentioned Boombox as a star player. Some of the high impact plays that man makes are out of this world. Mm-hmm. This is a 12-man roster too. I really, really value that. Like I look at this and I go, I don't know who's gonna play. Like I know I can't even pick the supports. Like I don't know who they're gonna throw out there week 1. There's Korean talent I don't know enough about to judge accurately. So when I talk about teams I'm afraid of in week 1, this is an unknown quantity to me. These guys could be up at the very top of the list. They could be down at the very bottom, and we won't know until we see it. So right now, that uncertainty makes me more afraid of them than a team that I think's pretty good, but I have the book on them, right? Like I have tape. I know what they're going to do. I know what their lineup's going to be. This makes me more nervous. So I'm very excited, and I'm very happy that we seem to have one team that we can agree on pretty closely.
I think that was about the only team. I think that's the only team we had. No, we have we have the next, or no, we have one of the. Well, we'll talk about it. We have one other team.
Yeah, we don't.
Besides Boston, we agreed on. There's 3 teams we agreed on. Boston, Philly, and one more.
Fandom, Like there's only one thing we agree about with Boston, and that's like where they belong in the power rankings.
Yeah.
But this one, like we both want to root for them. They're close. We're going to spend a lot of hours in a car driving to see these guys play.
Yeah.
So it would probably be in our best interest to play nice about the Philadelphia Fusion with one another.
Yes. So moving on, this is one where I'm going to go off. But at number 8, we have the Florida Mayhem. And their 2 out-of-division opponents are Valiant and Gladiators. And their spread is... We have the lowest being 12 and the highest being 5. And I will plant my flag and say that 5. You're
not alone.
I'm not alone in 5, but I am at the top of that list.
Yeah, we weren't alone at 6 either on Philadelphia. I think there was one other 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. So what are you thinking here then? Like,
okay,
why, go on your rant. Yeah,
I'm going on the rant
to help you here
because for some reason, people seem to have forgotten how good Misfits is because of the Finals of Contenders. And I am convinced that it is because the Finals of Contenders. It's like, oh, well, Misfits can't play on land. It's like, what? If Contenders, like, no, I'm not breathing. I've gone on this rant a couple of times now. I'm like feeling the cupcakes pulsing through me. It's like people are like, okay, well, it's all of Reddit. Well, okay, so here's the first Reddit comment. Well, what if someone sprains a pinky? We've seen esports players get hurt before. What are they gonna do? Forfeit their matches? It's like, okay, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. A. B, we talked to Mineral, who mentioned that ideally they'll have 8 to 9 on their roster. So A, it's a dumb thing to say in the first place that like they're gonna have someone injured and forfeit the rest of the season. The Misfits has put $20 million into this and they didn't think, we should probably have one extra person. So A, that's a stupid thing to say. B,
I'm going to say a lot of stupid things right after you're done talking.
Yeah.
So.
B, people seem to have forgotten how good Misfits is as a team. Like, they completely dominated Contenders up until the finals. Arguably the semis, but, like, they dominated up until the semis. Then they played fine in the semis, and then they played an extremely close game in the finals, and then lost to a very good team in Gigante. Like, people just, like, seem to, like, they lost the finals, they're a garbage team. Like, that's what it seems to be. And then that compounded with, they only have 6 people, they must be stupid. And also, they're like, they're figured out now, so what are they going to, like, I guess, like, Misfits plays one style, they can't change anything else, even though they have one of the most versatile players of all time in Tvik, and some of the most talented players as well. Like, people seem to have forgotten that. Because it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, because there's like a little thing here, a little thing here, a little thing here, and a little thing here, and Reddit like connects all the dots and says Illuminati confirmed, Misfits is garbage all of a sudden. It's like I don't get it. Like, people like just remember how good, like, here's what's weird to me. People have LA Valiant, which for the record is Immortals, right? Mostly Immortals with a couple of additions. Have Immortals rated above Misfits. Go back in time 6 weeks or whatever into the middle of Contenders and ask anyone in the world if Immortals is better than Misfits, and 0 people say yes. And all of a sudden, with almost nothing having changed, and in fact, Immortals getting even worse than then, all of a sudden people think that Immortals is better than Misfits now. It makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense whatsoever. I just don't get it.
I can't disagree with all of what you said. Because I don't have the Valiant rated higher, personally. I do have Florida at 8, though, to your 5. So there's a little bit of disagreement here. But again, this isn't that dart throw territory, right? So when I'm throwing darts on a bunch of teams that I think are really, really close, right, things like land record come to mind very, very quickly. And they're not huge factors, right? We've talked about how much better every single one of these teams is about to get on
how
land,
many
right?
like hundreds of games they're going to be playing on LAN.
Yeah, it is. So this is going to be a complete non-factor in 3 months. But right now, it's not a non-factor. And I do, like I've already mentioned before, I really value the ability to, in the event something goes wrong, like now I can know with pretty good, like I can have a really good idea or make a really good inference as to what comps Misfits are going to run in that first week. You know, there's just these little things that kind of drag them down just a little bit. And it's just everybody's so close in this tier. I can't put them up with the Korean teams, and not until I see it. I can't put them up with a lot of the other teams, but like really the next 3 or 4 in the rankings, like I could have just as easily gone the other way and felt just about as confident. So I could have definitely bumped up Florida in my rankings. I would feel fairly strong. You know, I think they're going to be like a middle of the road to a slightly above average team, maybe. If they can sign a couple more players and just kind of bring in that, how long has this team been together, right? Like how long has it been since an outside opinion has entered into that practice?
Sure, but I mean, like
they're not in the United States yet either. Mineral was having their coach at bare minimum is not in the United States. He was having waiting for visa approval.
Right.
Nothing the organization, nothing the players, nothing the coach could do about it. But I also worry about preparation time. Are they going to have as many scrim hours together going into this? Now, granted, they've got plenty of scrim hours as a group, but yeah, and so it's just these little things that kind of needle away at their ranking to me and just made it a little difficult to put them up there. But like I said, I could have easily put them in 7 and not, you know, not thought anything, or moved them up 1 or 2 and not really blinked an eye.
Like I'll give you this. If Misfits went the whole season with only 6, sure, I'm rating them lower. But that's like, we know because we've interviewed the coach, that's not what they're looking to do.
We know that he ideally would like to.
Okay, sure. We also know that a team that has invested $20 million into something probably is doing at least the bare minimum amount of research.
Are they? Because they're like the only team with 6 people.
I mean, but we heard from Mineral his kind of thought process on that, and I don't. We also heard that he doesn't have necessarily too much to do with player signings. So I'm on both sides of this. So I'm sure
devil's advocate.
Okay, here's where it stops to lose. Here's where it stops. Like people's line of thought starts to lose steam with me. Everyone's like, oh well, they only have 6 people. Like, okay, I've already kind of I think for the power rankings, like it only being right now. Okay, not looking 3 weeks in the future because we don't know what they're gonna do. Like just looking at right now, like there are only a few teams that have a stronger core than what Misfits has, just like at face value, having played together. And I put all of those teams above them. Okay. Like I put Dallas and I put the Korean teams in Dallas above them. But in terms of cores, they have the strongest core of any of the other. I would argue that they do. They have one of the strongest cores. And so, like, first week, like, yes, and, like, the first week, sure, they only have 6 people. No one's going to get injured from there, so that's out of the window. And you can't – there's not going to be tons of – I mean, I guess there's old tape or whatnot, but that's assuming that Misfits is not changing anything that they're doing. So I would say that, like, the whole, like, oh, we can just study up on what they're going to do for the first week is irrelevant because it's the first week. So – I don't know. I think they're probably the most underrated team right now, just based on what the community thinks. In my mind, they're my, like, if you're in a pool and you get good odds on, if you're doing some sort of betting, which I don't think is out there at all, but if there is and you're getting good odds on Florida, they're my sleeper pick based on what people put them at. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's probably more to talk about, but I'm too flustered right now, so.
Well, I don't even remember who read those names off, so I'll just take things over, give you a little chance to calm down a little bit. Just breathe, Blevins. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
I know. Well, it'll be okay when Florida Mayhem starts off in the, like, top 4 and everyone is just like, oh, but what if Pluppy sprains his pinky?
First matchup in week 1, the London Spitfire.
That'll be a good match.
The second matchup, the Boston Uprising.
So at worst, they're 1-1.
Record. Yeah, they're
right.
in the
I mean,
middle
but
of
here's the thing: if they
building.
beat Spitfire, I want to see them beat Spitfire so badly, so that everyone looks at me. Not so that everyone shuts up about it, so that everyone looks at me like I'm a genius because I am putting my neck out there for them right now. Hashtag Puppy lives.
Good luck, but I will not say like I think that I won't call that matchup a lock.
Oh, it's absolutely not a lock. No. I think that's a really good match.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good match.
That will be fun to watch for sure. Moving on to number 7 on our list here, though, I promise Pluppy's not on all these teams, so some of them will go by a little sooner. We have at number 7 your second Los Angeles team, the LA Valiant. They play against Boston and Florida for their 2 extra out-of-division games. And for the Valiant, we're looking at a high score, or a high ranking of 5, and a low ranking of 12. I think that might do it for our 12s. Probably not, though. Who knows? People were some of these are crazy in the best way possible.
Yeah.
There might be another one, but I do think that is the last 12. So. I'll kind of take over from here. On the Los Angeles Valiant, we obviously have the bulk of the Immortals roster, as we've alluded to here, coming off of kind of a struggling time, but I don't think one that anybody really overly anticipates being like a long-term deal breaker here. Right. Unlike some of these other teams, these guys have been with their Korean players for a good little while now. When you talk about star power, Silk Thread, Grim Reality, Agilities, like Soon, these guys have it. These guys have the big killers. When you look at the supports, we've got Envy, and we've got Unco, and we've got Verbo, and we've got Kareev. So they've got star power here on the supporting cast as well. And a tank, we've got Numlocked and Fate, and we've got Space on Flex. So yeah, things are going to be definitely pretty interesting here for the Los Angeles Valiant. It's just hard to be scared of this team coming off of their Contenders performance. Yeah. But that might very well be exactly what the Los Angeles Valiant would like you to be thinking about this, because I think this is a team that can come out and quickly surprise people. Like, there's a lot of teams that I think need a lot of time to gel, and I don't know that this is one of them. So my personal ranking for them is low, because I really, really worry about that, what exactly happened there, right? Like, I'm not sure the additions are enough to fix it. Like, if the core, like, they looked bad, right? So if the core is just broken, then this team is still broken. Like, they're going to have to reset quickly. But if they're not, and that is, the most likely scenario.
And they are season 0 champions of Contenders.
It's true. But you, sir, do have a little bit of explaining to you. And thank you, by the way. You have them at 11. I have them at 10, and I just get completely off the hook about ranking them low because you're a little bit lower. So why don't you justify it?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm perfectly willing to admit that I'm overvaluing the summation of Contenders Season 1, but I think that's like the most recent competitive tournament that we've seen a lot of these teams in. So like that, it's the the hottest thing that we've seen them come off of. I mean, it's got to, in a lot of ways, it has to be the best or the most likely window into what we could expect for Overwatch League Season 1. There's really not much else unless we're like watching their scrims or something. There's nothing else public really that we can see that would give us a higher chance to be accurate. So, they really pooped their pants for Contender Season 1. Like, that's the best way to put it. We had really high hopes off of we had really, really high hopes for Immortals in Season 0. Obviously, they won Season 0 of Contenders. And even before that, like, they were a very good team in the Envy and Rogue aren't in NA world, right? Like, it was them, Renegades and Hammers, which became LG Evil, were like the big juggernauts of NA when Envy and Rogue were gone. So like, they have a history of being good. They also have a history of being bad. So, I mean, honestly, like I could definitely see them moving up. They are in the unique situation of they have a core that has been good before, and they also did some upgrades. So, and they also, like, I mean, we know personally, having talked to people, we know that Immortals has a really good infrastructure. So I think it's going to create a very good environment for the players to grow. Not that the other teams don't have that. We just don't know as much as we do about Immortals. So, like, I have rated them low for sure. But honestly, I would not be surprised if they jumped up.
Yeah, it would only take a couple of wins for this ranking to change for me drastically and quickly. Yeah. I think, but yeah, for the time being, at least, I think there's a lot of mistakes and misplays that are on tape that people can study and use and plan for. So we'll see how, what they've been able to do to shore them up, whether or not that'll be enough. But Blevins, why don't you take us away with our number 6 team?
Yes, the number 6 team is the Shanghai Dragons. Their out of division opponents are New York and Philly, and their spread is the highest being number 2, the lowest being 11. And there's a couple of 11s in here, and there's actually a couple of 10s too.
No team was more all over the map than the Shanghai Dragons.
And honestly, I think that makes the most sense. I think most of the people I talked to, candidly, were like, I just really don't know where to rate this team. Their roster does not include what a lot of people would consider the best Chinese team in Miraculous Youngsters. And besides that, like, I think, most of the people that we asked about, or that we asked for, most of the people that we got rankings from, not super familiar with the Chinese scene. There is one in here that is, but but for the most part, these numbers are not based on anything that we've really paid a whole heck of a lot of attention to. At least us personally. I don't know how much everyone else is paying attention to it, but it's tough. Like, I think this is the one where like you said, I think a lot of people were in the same boat as you were, as well as myself, Death. It was like the middle teams were kind of like throwing darts at a board. I think a lot of people had their top, the top of the bell curve and the bottom of the bell curve, and then the middle was kind of like, I don't know. And I think, we did see a huge spread for Shanghai, but it just kind of averaged out to be right in the middle, which I guess if you're unsure, if the community is unsure where it's going to be, like, you're going to get a lot of high and you're going to get a lot of low. So it actually makes perfect statistical sense. So,
Yeah, I think as a community, we did a better job than we probably did as individuals, although, us personally had them at 7, and they were right in that, obviously right in that ballpark. So yeah. I guess props to us for being extremely non-committal on this particular team. But, they're a team that I think has huge potential for both directions. Like, this could swing. I don't expect them to be anywhere near 6. Let's say that. I don't think they're going to be a middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
I think they're going to show up, and they're going to be playing the Doomfist meta, and they're going to be on a completely different wavelength than everybody else in the tournament scene. And only the top tier teams are going to be able to stymie it, and they're going to make a lot of average teams look bad and like sit there in like probably that like 3 to 4 range for most of the season. Or they're going to plummet.
That's too high. I think, like, in theory, I think 3 to 4 is, like, based on what you said, makes sense. But, like, when you think about the top 4 teams, it's like, I don't see them beating any of those teams.
See, but I'm over here thinking to myself, like, one of these first, like, 2 of these 4 are going to fall, and they're going to fall hard because the competition's going to come up. They're not going to be ready for it. I really think at least one huge, surprising, disappointing team coming out of the top 4 in our rankings. I don't know who it'll be. I'm not making any predictions. I know it won't be the number 5 team, so we'll find there. But, but I think so either they're playing a different game, or they're playing a different game than everybody else, and it's the wrong meta, and they're not where, their practice time has been off, and now they need to conform to what the global meta will be of the Overwatch League, and they need to figure things out a little bit. And so either they're going to be a team that adapts to it and like is, because they're already doing something different, whatever changes are needed, they're going to be good to go on the fly with it. Or they just kind of drop. So that's why I just very purposefully went middle of the road with these guys, because I don't know what to make of them. I need to see it.
Yeah, and I mean, this doesn't really affect power rankings, but I think that they're going to be a tough org to build up, because I think it's a very tough sell if like Mangachu, I'll keep using him as the example, as like, or AKM as like a top prospect. Like, what do you need to do as the Shanghai Dragons ownership and front office? What do you need to do for Mangachu to get him to join an all Chinese roster? Where like seriously though, like where everyone on the team is Chinese, everyone on the team is played in China and speaks Chinese, and you are the one person from NA who may, theoretically be better in terms of like raw player skill than all the other players, but like, and might be the quote unquote star of the team, but like you're coming onto a team that speaks all Chinese, and I'm assuming the culture is going to be Chinese, and their home is going to be China once, season 2 happens. Like, what do you need to offer these top prospects? Like, is it even possible that one of these top prospects would go to that team? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. And actually, now that I think about it, we should probably start asking these players, because I think it's an interesting question. Because like we think of like, oh, well, a Korean player probably knows at least some English and can adapt to NA, but like that is not the case for NA players going to China or Korea for sure.
They make an effort growing up to teach their children English
because they're smart.
No effort when growing up to teach our children Chinese, Mandarin, Korean, any of the languages spoken.
Yeah,
basically outside of our country. Like we have like Spanish.
And French sometimes.
And, like I took German, but it was just to be that guy and take a language that wouldn't be useful.
Yeah.
And like Latin was the other one that was taught an option in high school. But one thing I will say here, Shanghai Dragons, my number one favorite pick to be 2-0 at the end of week 1. They play against the Los Angeles Gladiators and the San Francisco Shock, and I think they're very, very likely to leave 2-0. I won't call either of them locks. But I would make them, they would be my favorites in both of those matchups. And I'm not sure I can say that about all the other ones.
I feel like that split of 3 teams is like the biggest dice roll yet.
Yes, that one definitely a little bit crazy, but I got this, Blevs.
Okay, you got it. We
timed it perfectly. I want everybody to take a moment to welcome the Green Wall. Houston Outlaws are at number 5 here in the consensus rankings. They're 2 out. Thank you for the crowd noise, much appreciated. Their 2 out of division opponents that they face the extra time are the Gladiators and the Shock. So right away, I think those are 2 favorable matchups for them. They give them just that little tiny bit of edge. So, shout outs to the schedule makers for helping me out that first season. Appreciate that. But let's take a look here. Let's see. I had them actually, people might be pretty surprised about this. I had them at 5, right where they sit. But the highest that they were was 2. And the lowest that they were was some jerk goes out of his way to make me mad and put him at 9. Blevins, you're that jerk. What's up, my man? What's up, my man?
They're overrated. They're just take my
right now.
Just take my whole argument in favor of Florida and reverse it, and that's why Houston is garbage.
Good, perfect timing.
I know. I waited. I timed it. No, I mean, again, like it's tough, right? These rosters are these. I mean, they have the backbone of phonography, but and they have. I mean, they have Linkser, so like maybe by my own logic, they should be higher, but. I don't know. It's the type of thing where if you are building if you're trying to pick your NCAA finals, if you're trying to make your bracket and you just pick, oh well, this team should be this team, this team should be this team, you're never gonna get anywhere, right? You need to ruffle it up a little bit. You need to pick some underdogs. You need to rate people higher. You need to rate people lower. And I think the two teams that are flip-flopped at best are Florida and Outlaws. I think people are overvaluing Outlaws for a number of reasons. I think it's like, instead of death by 1,000 paper cuts, it's like life by 1,000 paper cuts. They have a fan favorite team core in Corn Dogs. They have a star in Linkser, as well as an old time star that hasn't really played that much, but was always very good in Mendo. They have arguably the best branding, at least.
He says arguably, like it's up for debate.
I'm just, trying to remain at least a little bit neutral. And they're
so neutral, I want to fight you.
I know. I'm a fence sitter.
The outlier.
Someone please clip that and make that into a soundbite for next week. And then they're also owned by a huge fan favorite esports organization of Optic, and like all of those things, like any one of those things individually, like okay, maybe, I mean, the Linkser thing, I think we'll put them up, but any of those other things on their own is like, okay, well, they're a decent team but not great. But like all of those things put together, people think way better of them. No one wants to see the awesome logo and sweet McCree skin be dead last place. So if we keep rooting for them, people will, maybe they'll be better. But honestly, like I think on merit alone, like they're a decent team, but I think they're overrated, and they also have the chance. They also have the ability to just not gel together and not be great. So you know what? They're overrated. I stand by where I put them.
I'm going to use your own arguments against you. What, did you just forget about contenders? Like, they just did it. Like, they were obviously the biggest problem.
They got crushed. They got crushed.
They're mostly a full roster coming together.
They got crushed.
Need time. That's why they're here for me. That's why they're at 5. I can't put them above the Korean teams until they prove it. And I just think that because they're coming in as such a fully formed group, the performances that we saw from their players at the World Cup, I mean, if anybody thought Jake wasn't going to be good enough to be on that starting roster, like go watch the World Cup match against them. Like it was crazy close. Jake proved he can hang with the top end of players in the scene at the World Cup there. And to be honest, the rest of the World Cup, like the World Cup to me sold it. Like it took me from like putting them maybe 1 or 2 spots lower just because I needed to see it and how everything worked to like, nope, don't care. I'm in. Like I'm sold. Like I got to see Jake play on the team that he's got to assimilate into and all these things. And it looked good. I think the team, they seem very single-minded here. Like they're all on the same page. They all have a very similar attitude. I think they're going to have less problems than most gelling and getting everything figured out. And I just, man, they have everything we talked about, right? Like they have the tank play. Whether you're sold on Muma gets supported when he's on Winston. At least he gets supported by by Cool Matt and his divas, so he gets to be kind of dragged up. Like, so if you're not a big Muma fan, you can see why it would be okay to kind of have that be one of your weak spots, right? Because the guy that helps him and supports him is one of the better players on the team. They have the star power and the supports that I like to see, and they have options, just options. I think they're going to be able to use, and they will use, substitutions better than most teams. I think Houston, while they will take a little time to gel because they do have to figure out those options, right? To figure out when's the best time to sub in the different DPS players that they want to use. I think that core of the tanks and the supports being a carryover, and at the end of the day, if they're having problems where that's concerned, they can put Clockwork in, they can kind of stabilize things a little bit. And I mean, Cool Matt and Linkser, enough said. Get out of here. Get out of here, Blevins. I'm done with you. I'm done.
Fight me at PAX. Fight me at PAX.
And you're gonna really enjoy this outro you're gonna get to listen to.
Yeah.
We're done. Mic drop. I don't have a mic. I have a vape. I dropped it.
All right.
There, but I'm not dropping it.
Well, let's move on at least. And you got to announce your team, and I get to announce my team, but at the wrong spot in the rankings. So at number 4, we've got New York Excelsior, whose out of division opponents are Seoul and Shanghai, which I don't even know how to feel about that. Again, like basically complete toss up there.
One of them's definitely rough. But
one of them is definitely going to be a rough match. The other one is, I mean, I'm not shaking, but I'm also not like I still withhold judgment on the Shanghai team, and their spread is. There we go. We've got as low as number 6 and as high as number 1.
Who put him at 1?
It's me. I'm flexing on the camera. It was definitely me. 100%. Got to support the team through and through. You are a chump and a poser for not putting Houston at number 1. You pick with your gut, man. You pick with your gut.
No, sir.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
I'll pick with my gut way more often when it comes down to like who's gonna win their week 1 matchups. Like who are they playing? Like when I'm picking those, my gut sneaks in there all the time. Yeah. But if I'm looking like season long or like in the power rankings game, like I'm usually pretty good at kind of stepping back. Like as long as I don't have to sit there and go like, well, I mean, I think they're going to lose to this team, right? Because I want to think they can beat everybody.
Right.
But in a macro level, I'm like, oh no, they've got some new members. They need some time. Like I could see them dropping a couple games, but after stage 2, look out because they're going to be flying up my power ranks whether they deserve to or not. Probably.
Yeah. So here's the thing. And I think there's a lot. So on the real, there's a lot of argument to be made for this top 4. I think honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the top 4 just got shuffled around, and I imagine it probably will throughout the season. Mm-hmm. I think that the 5 through 12 are really where we can see a lot. We can definitely see a lot of change, and I mean, it will be very interesting to see if people can. I think it's going to be the top 4 playing their own thing, and then the bottom 8 kind of fighting in there as well. I think that's kind of what it's at least projected to be, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. But here's how I think. I'm not going to go into super detail because we're already almost at an hour and a half. But
oh, geez, really?
No, well, hour 15. But yeah, and we still have more to go. Here's why I put Excelsior at number 1. Fuel doesn't hold. Envy didn't hold up with Korea in the later seasons of Apex. Like maybe they're better now. I'm perfectly willing to accept that. But just based on how they did before, they're a good team and they're a contender, but they're not like head and shoulders above the Korean team. So I'm bumping them down. London is the one that I honestly like. It was my gut to not put them first, so I could definitely see them being it. But here's what I'll say about London. I think people overvalue them, but there's a diminishing returns with having 2 full rosters. I think people are like, oh, well, they have 2 full rosters, so they're twice as good as any team because both of those teams are good. It's like that's just not how it works. I do think that they're going to be good. I don't know how much better they're going to be than the sum of their parts. But I think that even if they just had one of the teams, they're going to be very good. So that's where like I could definitely see it. And then Seoul, I think, we may have started to see the downfall of Lunatic High in Apex, and just seeing them get beat by so many teams and dumpstered by teams, and mostly that teams that are now part of the London Spitfire. But it's possible that maybe we've talked about the issues on earlier episodes. Like maybe they were sandbagging for Overwatch League or something. So I'm perfectly willing to see them bounce back up and be just as good as they always were. Perfectly willing to see that, but I could see them going. I could see them going on the down rather than back on the up. And then like right now, Libero and Sebaobi, like amazing DPS duo right now. And then next season with Flower, like done. done. It's not even a question next season. But, that's kind of the 2-minute, like, this is why I put them over the other top 4.
Listen, I really want to put you on blast, Blevins. I want to just tell you that you're nothing but a fanboy. I want to make jokes about kissing the ring that's on the bare hands. But I can't do it. I can't do it because it's really
because they actually are a good game.
What's that?
They actually are a good team.
Yeah, like it could be very, very possible. Listen, we've talked about and how I personally believe this to be true, that there are going to be teams that come over from Korea and disappoint a little bit because their home base changed, right? Like there's a culture shock about this first season that won't even necessarily be there in subsequent seasons after this, right? So they might even be at a bit of a disadvantage. But to think that it's going to affect all of them and that all of them are going to get worse is, I think, naive. To think none of them are going to be affected by this and be their level of play brought down, I think is also naive. So this is what I say when I mean there are teams in this top 4 that I think might just drop. There might not be Seoul what we saw at the end of Apex with Seoul might not have been an anomaly here. It might carry over, right? They might have troubles. They might Anna might get nerfed and Ryujie Hong has to go to Mercy, and we saw how that very quickly makes them like lose maps and stuff like that. So they've shown, I mean, that was a mixed team over at the World Cup, but they've shown some cracks in the armor here for all of them, really. And I think they're only going to be widened a little bit. So this one could be the one that isn't very affected by it, that just doesn't care, goes crazy and does what they do. Or they could be kind of what I perceive them to be over in Apex kind of normally, which is, I think that I don't know what titles they won. I don't want to claim to know all their finishes.
Luxury Watch. They've always been near the top. I don't think they've won. I think they finals. No, that might have been Africa Freaks. That might have been Africa Freaks. But here's the thing.
You should have paid more attention to
I'm pretty sure it was Africa Freaks. But here's the thing. I completely forgot the point I was going to make. But I had a good point. Just know that I had a good point.
I mean, your point is proven. They've got a deep roster. I mean, across all 8 of these guys, they are very, very talented. They've shown big plays. They're going to get better in time. It would be very hard for me to put them at 1 until we start to see it. But this is a team that could literally go from 4 to 1 after week 1 because they do play against, let's see, the Boston Uprising. So we've got that 1-0 start. And then, so it'll be 1-1 because they go against Houston in the second game. So they're definitely.
Oh my God! The first week our teams get to play each other. Yes. Oh my God! I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I didn't even know that until right now. Okay, so I do remember the one thing I was going to say, and this is probably not a huge point to make, but I'll say it anyway. They have basically known that they were going to be the team for a very long time. That was one of the like very, very early like leaks, spoiler rosters. And when we talked to Bare Hands, he was kind of like, yeah, no, I pretty much knew this was going to be the roster. I got a couple other players as well, but like we knew this was pretty much going to be the roster. And like the other players we got are absolutely phenomenal. And you guys don't even know what you're you guys don't even know what you're underestimating yet. It's like, okay. Like the culture shock thing, I mean, I have to imagine that one of the things that like knowing that you're going to have a roster for that long is like you gotta know that that's something you gotta
and it's hard to knock them too much for it, right? I mean, it's going to be less of a culture shock for like the Europeans to come over and things like that. But I mean, there's a lot of players, even some of the U.S. players, they're going to be moving from like East Coast to West Coast, and that can affect you too. Almost nobody's going to be immune to this unless they're like a SoCal native, right? Then they're just going to be like at mom's house on the weekends anyway. It's like normal or whatever.
Right.
And nothing will be any different. But that's a small number, so it's until we see who it affects. I don't want to pin it on any one team and expect them to fail, or expect them to be worse than they've been. It's not fair to them and the time and the effort that they've put in. So as much as I would love to give you exceptional amounts of flack for putting them at 1, I can't do it. But let's move us on here since we are a little low on time. At number 3, in my experience, and I would have to estimate probably the biggest fan base in Overwatch League, at least on in the Western world.
Yeah.
I don't have my ear to the ground in the Korean scene. I think I know who they like over there, but we do have the Dallas Fuel with their extra games out of division against Boston and Philadelphia. So not unfavorable there. Like, as much as I like Philly and as much as we were ahead on Philly, Dallas is been in the U.S. for a little while. These guys made the NA move a long time ago. So if there's any of the Europeans that will be less affected by this, it will be these ones. What else can you say about them, right? I mean, they just win. They just win almost all the time. They
win in NA.
Yeah, but they always compete even when they don't. Like, there's been, there's nobody that I think they have to overly fear from any of the teams that are above them. Personally, the rank, the gap on Dallas was as high as 1 and as low as 4. So very firm confidence from the entire community here that Dallas will be a strong team. And that's what's making them so easy to root for right now, right? Is there's not a lot of questions here, right? Like, they just took
pretty good branding too.
Yeah, they're really good branding. They have like the one of the best team in the West. We can just go ahead and say that with confidence.
Yeah.
And then they added in star power. Like, they added streamer personalities that just make the fanboys flock and fly over. Flock, right? Seagull?
Yeah.
Got there, ran away with
spam haha in the chat, please.
But yeah, so what are you thinking here with Dallas? I know I had them at 2, but you had them at 3. So I guess you're the one with explaining to do again.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, if you look at it as spots 5 through 12 are playing in NA, and spots 1 through 4 are Apex playoffs. Like, there's a good like, Envy is 1 Apex, so like, I don't doubt that they can be anywhere in that top 4, and I say that about all of these teams in the top 4. I think they absolutely dominate the rest of the pack. So, like, I have them at 3, mostly because, like, for the reasons I mentioned before. Like, we haven't seen them play against the Korean teams in a while. I'm going off of most recent results in Apex, which were not the best. I'll be the first to admit it, those are outdated. It's outdated what I'm basing it off of, but it's what I've got. So I would not be surprised to see Fuel be at literally any of the top 4 spots, and I will be extremely surprised if I see them anywhere else. So, I mean, they absolutely could have leveled up to the point where they're going to be better than any of these Korean teams. Like, I could certainly see that. The additions of Seagull, XQC, Custa, all those additions to the team were very good in helping their diversity, in terms of what they can bring to a match. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've leveled up enough to be better than these other teams. But I'm also not again, it's bad until proven good, not the other way around.
Yeah, I completely agree. They could have gone anywhere in the top 4 and been just right. I only did put one team above them, and thankfully they get to play each other week 1, because the headliner at the end of Wednesday is the Dallas Fuel at the Seoul Dynasty, 11 p.m. January the 10th. Mark it. That's the day. We're under a month. No, we're 2 months away. We're 2 months away. So things are going to be heating up, and that is just going to be a hype match. I cannot wait. Brilliant job putting that one where they did. But we can kind of skip along here, as I don't think there's much suspense left. Number 2 here is going to be the London Spitfire with their 2 matches against the San Francisco Shock and the Seoul Dynasty. This was my number 1 and your number 2. The lowest pick they got was 11, and the highest they got was number 1. So a bit of a disparity there. Obviously, you'll have to check the write-up. We're not going to name names on any of these unless it's in the write-up and we know that we have their consent to do so. But yeah, it's a bit of a spread, but for the most part, that is a massive outlier.
Right. So if you strike the 11, the next lowest is a 6.
Yep.
but most of it is, you know, 1,
4, 3, 2, 1,
3. Yeah. There's 1, 4. It's mostly 1s and 2s, a handful of 3s, a 4, a 6, and 11. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. So people are very, very set here, and to me, again, my number one team. So I'll do the explaining, and I'll try to say why. When I talk about at the beginning, I mentioned who you're scared of. Right? How is it not this team? It doesn't make sense to do any other team.
Which one of those teams on that team are you most scared of? Answer right? Both.
Yes, 100%. Like, who are they going to roll out? You're doomed. But this is also my number one pick for teams most likely to collapse out of here and just fall down, right? Because they have both of these rosters. We don't know if they're going to mix them and they're going to match them. We don't know if they're going to swap entire rosters in the middle of maps and keep everybody on their toes. They can do whatever they want, and that is terrifying.
Yeah.
They can also mismanage it into the ground and really shoot themselves in the foot. And I don't know what they're going to do.
They could C9 it and just leave.
This is C9. Their record's not super great right now, right? They had the whole coaching fiasco with Alicus, and you know their left hand doesn't always seem to know what their right hand is doing. However, this is a long-standing organization with a solid track record in almost every other game, as far as I know.
Right, and also the beginning of Overwatch too.
Right. And they might have been trying and experimenting with some things because they weren't sure which way they wanted to go. And they're not wrong, right? Like, we don't know who's right and who's got the right attitude and who's doing the right thing. But if I was having to play against them week one, let's just find out who it is. If I was the Florida Mayhem and if I was the Philadelphia Fusion, I would be rightfully terrified because I wouldn't know what to expect. I wouldn't really be able to prepare for it.
See, I don't think Florida's worried about it. I think Florida's going to be just fine.
I mean, they have no options, so they don't have any ability to change it up and try to level them. So sure, they're going to be fine. They're going to roll out their 6 guys and probably lose. But you know, it's just, I mean, probably lose, but like they have a shot. Like I think that's your biggest. Because of your rant.
That's fine. I will stick with them. I think that's your biggest. I think that's your upset match of the week. I think
That's a great call.
I think that's a really good match to watch because it could be. I think that's your biggest chance for an upset. Like Soul Fuel is not going to be an upset one way or the other. It's going to be a slobber knocker. And like the other matches probably aren't going to be upsets. They're just going to be dumpsters. They're like not close enough to be called upsets. Like they could be an upset. Like that's always possible, but that's not like it doesn't mean it's likely to be an upset. So like I think like Seoul Dallas obviously going to be a great match. Watching New York crush Boston is going to be a great match. But I think that this is going to be very telling as well. I think a lot of people don't think this is close, but I think that it's going to be closer than people think.
It's definitely closer than people think. And there's 2 teams. I mean, it's funny, right? It's like the one team that is good as I think they have a chance to be an R. I'm like the least excited to watch them. Like, sorry, Florida. Like I've seen you for a while. Like I'm not learning anything week one. It's like the most excited I am to watch any team, and like the least.
It's like you want to play with the new cards when they come out.
I think it's going to be a chance that like the least excited team is the one that comes out of there. A great call on upset of the week for the first week. We'll have to remember that one. But yeah, Blevins, why don't you take us home here with the number one team since everybody already kind of knows.
Yeah, so process of elimination leads us to say that the Seoul Dynasty are the number one team. Their 2 out of division opponents are London and New York, so arguably the hardest out of division opponent extras. Their spread is as high as 1 and as low as 4. So pretty much the most consistently high-rated team, obviously, because their community says number 1. A lot of 1s here. I am the sole number 4. And again, like I honestly like I've played the card enough, but like I've said, I think the whole top 4 could go to any one of those 4, and I wouldn't be surprised. So I wouldn't put too much stock into me picking 4. I think I mostly picked it because I think a lot of people are putting them as 1, and it's like, you know what? I don't think that they're 1. I don't want to see them as 1. I'm factoring that in as well. So, you know, sue me. But, you know, they are a team. fantastic track record, multiple time Apex, multiple time Apex winning core. Just a phenomenal team. We did see them on the downturn a little bit, which factored in a bit as to why I rated them a little bit lower. But I mean, I don't think literally no one that we talked to has put them below 4. And really, if you take me out, no one put them below 3. So,
and I'm your 3, and it's a short company there
it's
too.
low.
So
yeah,
I'm in relative agreement with you here. I just didn't have a sorting hat yelling a team's name in my ear over and over again when I wrote these. So I was able to, to keep the top 3 intact for me. And listen, everything you said, like they've got some older players too, which make me think they might have like fatigue problems later going on. But again, this is power rankings. This is who I'm scared of right now. Seoul's not a team I expect to use a lot of subs. I feel like if I was Dallas or if I was the Spitfire, I could know what to expect. I could prepare for it. And that's really what the difference was to me by putting, Dallas and London ahead of them. Is Dallas, I'm less sure, rolls their 6. Like there's a decent chance we see a little bit of Siegel. Like they might make that swap on King of the Hill.
XQC and I wouldn't be surprised at all.
XQC had a really strong performance in the last few events we've seen him in. So it forces teams to prepare for those options, whether they're used or not. Practice time, scrim time, VOD review time is spent looking at bench players on those teams. And I don't know that if I'm going in week 1 against Seoul, I would probably just make the assumption that I'm going to see the 6 that I'm used to, and we're gonna go.
Here's the other thing Dallas could do. They could run the Custa support and pull out the old Harry Hook DPS.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas has a ton of flexibility, and a lot of it stems from Harry Hook just being an absolutely ridiculous human being at video games. And also, I mean, Taimu too, to be fair. He's an incredibly flexible player that can play most anything. So a lot of flexibility there, and they don't even have to change, like get anybody changing chairs necessarily to show that off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Blevins, that's it, man. That's a long episode.
I gotta say, it was one of the most fun. It was one of the most
fun. Much fun. I got to yell at you. We agreed.
We disagreed. We loved. We hated. We laughed. We cried.
I dropped my vape on purpose. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I need a second mic just for when I yell at you, and I can drop it.
Yeah, exactly.
I might have one.
Yeah.
Look.
But that's it, guys. For the power rankings, I hope you guys liked it. I know we did, and we're gonna keep doing it because really, we say we're doing it for you, but it's really for us. No,
it's partially true. I would probably be ranking these on my own if there was no podcast, just because that's the kind of freak I am.
Right.
But I mean, just to give you guys a little insight into how things are gonna go here. I'm hoping we can't vouch for the community outreach. And by the way, huge shout outs again, Achilleos, Alicus, Ask Joshy, Bren, Captain Planet, Chanman, Doa, Harsha, Hexagrams, I Play Games, Kick Tripod, Left Guy, Mash, Not Rob, Pesto Enthusiast, Sideshow, Slambo, Spider, Taco, Totally Drunk, Uber, and Wolf. All of you, thank you so much for helping take part in this episode.
Huge.
Contributing. Can't say enough. If there's ever anything we can do for you, say the word, and we will be there. I'm hoping to get some community feedback, and it might be a varying group each time. There might be some recurring characters for every stage. I want to reset these and get the community feedback. Also, I'm going to very likely be writing these up every week, every other week between me and you. We're going to have power rankings are going to be a very regular thing here on the High Noon podcast. So be very ready for that.
Yeah, and one other thing, if you know someone who's in the community or is a favorite of yours, that's, I mean, they don't even necessarily, I mean, ideally we'd like to keep it in the, esports analyst type of role, but if there's someone that we missed, let us know, because we really kind of reached out to the people that came to the top of our minds, as well as the kind of the brainchild of A. Smith as well. But
to be honest, though, if we didn't just read their name, we probably asked them. But by all means, tell us.
Let us know.
Make sure we reach out to them
and let them know too. We did ask more people.
Hey, missed
for sure.
Missed your rankings on the High Noon podcast. Like, tweet at them.
Yeah,
we'll retweet it.
Yeah, but yeah, so let us know what you thought of the whole power rankings thing. We're going to be doing it not as probably in depth as this, but
they'll look more like movers and shakers. Who the biggest the biggest gains and the biggest drops in the ranks. Yeah. Probably what we'll do on like a regular weekly
Absolutely. And we're going to be doing write-ups as well. Probably weekly between the two of us. But that's going to be it for the episode, guys. It was just one of the most fun ones I've done in a while. I'm super excited. I'm so excited. League starting. Couple what?
I was going to say, we got some good ideas in the pipeline too. And if you guys have it, what are your favorite sports bits from podcasts, from radio shows, from TV shows?
Shacked in a Fool is my favorite thing ever.
Any ideas you have, we'll love all of them. We can't use all of them if we get a bunch, but I think we're going to, and I really like this idea, so I'd like to do it, but I think we're going to be creating a team out of some free agents very soon.
Ooh.
So keep an eye out for that as well. We will
to form the Toronto team.
Be constructing a 13th team.
Yeah, the Toronto Tempest. But yeah, just a couple of housekeeping things for those of you diehards who've listened this far already. If you are listening for the first time, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. We have gotten a pretty nice influx of new podcast subscribers, and with that comes the I don't want to say need, but the want for new iTunes reviews. If you guys are listening and you did like the show, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. I know it's a task. I know it's a big thing. iTunes is the worst, etc. I get it. I know.
Helps us more than a Patreon donation.
It helps us more than a Patreon donation. It helps us more than a Twitch Prime subscription, which you can subscribe to us for free once a month with your Twitch Prime subscription, which is free if you have Amazon Prime. You can sub to your favorite streamer once a month. Hashtag sellout. But seriously, the iTunes reviews, super helpful. Because it helps the show grow in our biggest metric, which is the podcast listenership. But it also, we've gotten a ton of actual helpful feedback from iTunes reviews, which I'm super happy that you guys have engaged us in that way. But that's going to be it, guys. Death, unless you have anything else that you want to reference.
No, again, links to the Discord everywhere that you can watch the show, ways you can reach out to and communicate to myself and the Blevins, all available on highnoonpodcast.com.
Yes.
There's a host page. There's the main page with all the links for the show stuff. We love community feedback. We love interacting with you guys. Join the Discord. It's so much fun. Can't wait to see you in there.
The only other thing I would say is head over to twitch.tv/highnoonpodcast. Follow the podcast so that you can know when we go live. We do 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. We had a really great chat today. For a regular episode, we usually get even bigger chats for the High Noon Hot Seats, which we do at varying times during the week. So follow twitch.tv/highnoonpodcast to know when we go live and all that stuff. And if you wanted to become we are an affiliate, so you could subscribe if you wanted to. But enough selling out. That's going to be it, guys. Huge thanks to everyone who contributed to the power rankings list, all the community members. Like, seriously, huge thanks. Really kind of gave the backbone to the show today, so we can't thank you enough. Huge thanks to all the patrons, to everyone in the Discord, to all the fans who listened, everyone who listens, everything. Huge thanks to Matcherino for sponsoring our SoundCloud. All the SoundCloud listeners can go to Matcherino and thank them there. And also huge thanks to Adam Hoek, who put together the awesome outro music that you are about to hear. But this has been one of the longest episodes, so I'm going to take us out, guys. I am the Blevins for Deathblow. Remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Houston Outlaws are the Overwatch cupcake pictures of Overwatch League. Just saying it. Bye.
Dead to me. Greenwell.